The two best things that came out of last night's game. The Jets lost, the Jets covered. That's pretty much it.
How can you wish for losing? I don't understand this.
Very easily.
I mean, is it the end-all, be-all to get Trevor Lawrence? It's going to change your franchise so much that you want to lose games even when you play well? Because I was shockingly surprised at how well the Jets played. They actually looked like a competent team last night.
They did. Well, they had all their receivers. That kind of helps.
No, it does.
For the first time we'll see. You know, it's funny because I put this on social media. I put it on last night, and you get the occasional outliers. Oh, what kind of fan are you? Like you just, how do you root for your team to lose? You know what? I have rooted for my team to lose more than I have for them to win in the past decade. But there's different. I know that's ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah.
And there's different reasons for that. Sometimes you root for the loss because it will force management to fire somebody you don't believe in.
But even if they're playing better, because they played well last night.
Even if they won, they're 1-8. I mean, they've got Seattle, they've got the Raiders, they've got all these good teams they're playing. So it wouldn't change it. The other reason why you root for the losses, and I kind of stopped doing this with the NBA. I was doing it for a while with my team, but it never really worked out. I hear you. Put it this way: if Sam Darnold was playing last night, I would have had a different energy, and I would have been in a tougher spot. Like, I don't know if I would have quite been – like, I was flat out celebrating.
Yeah.
Like, when Folk lined up the game-winning field goal, right, I had as much angst that he would miss it, okay, not hit it, that he would miss it, that I used to have when he was kicking similar field goals when he was on the Jets, that he would make it. How crazy is that?
That is crazy. I can understand that because, look, I had this conversation with Nick Mangold and Willie McGinnis. I was doing an event with Thuzio, my company. We were doing a game watch, and the first thing that we said when the game started, because we knew that Sam Darnold wasn't playing.
Yep.
And it was Joe Flacco. It was exactly the conversation we had before we left the show, BT, which is, what are you going to gain by Joe Flacco playing well, poorly, horrible? It doesn't matter. Like, what do you
choice D at all?
Exactly. What are you gaining at all from Joe Flacco playing as well as he did last night? Because as it was going on, as I was in my mind, I'm going, Joe Flacco's actually throwing the ball pretty well.
Yeah, he was.
That 50-yard touchdown, that was well placed.
Yep.
Joe Flacco's making some really smart decisions right now. Uh-huh. Wow, Joe Flacco looks like a really good quarterback right now. But as I'm saying it, I'm saying, what does that do for the Jets? Because they might win this game, take themselves out of position to draft Trevor Lawrence. And now all of a sudden, when Sam Darnold comes back, if he looks significantly worse than Joe Flacco did, you got this internal issue as well. It wasn't making any sense to me as I watched this game, like what the emotion was if you were a Jets fan.
No, but it does make sense. That's why you root for the loss. Because it's far less complicated. Think about this. The different tiers that you just hit,
yes,
do not apply if you just root for the loss. You just strip all that away.
Good point.
You root for the loss. Now,
but now are you saying Sam Darnold shouldn't play at all?
No, of course, no. As soon as Sam's shoulder's ready, you got to throw him out there.
But now I ask, to what end? So to why? Because if you want to draft Trevor Lawrence, it's obviously because you see him as expendable.
You want to build up his. Well, we're going to get into this next segment. You want to build up his draft in terms of his trade value. I know Schefter was talking about this last night on Countdown. You want to build that up a bit. You want to see what he could do, with some actual competent wide receivers. But, listen, this is just my sad lease or lot in life. I mean, Patriot fans, while they're rooting for the win clearly because they're winners,
yep.
And in their minds, they're never out of it until they're really officially out of it. They probably don't fully believe in the Bills, and they probably don't fully believe in Miami. Because they beat up on them for 20 years. But even if you're a Patriots fan last night, again, you are definitively rooting for the W, unlike 80, I would say roughly 80%, maybe more, of Jets fans who are rooting for the loss. But what are you really – where is your conviction a lot? Like, where is the hope that – where's the optimism for the – okay, so the Patriots won. Mm-hmm. They got their third win of the season. You think Cam looked – I know that he looked better than he has. You think Cam looked good?
Cam dinked and dunked his way to looking good. What did he complete? What did he complete?
77% of his passes.
No, I mean 11 in a row to start. I think
start the game,
something like that. Maybe it was 10 because there was one penalty. Whatever it was, he looked like, hey, he's not making any mistakes. So the only thing you take away from the Cam Newton side of this is, hey, he didn't make any mistakes. And if he doesn't make mistakes, we score some points and we have a chance to win. But clearly this Patriots team is compromised in so many other ways, as the Jets who hadn't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks, scored 27 points on them. And Joe Flacco looked like Joe Flacco from the year he went to the Super Bowl in 2015, right? So and that was half a decade ago. So yes, there were positives if you were a New England Patriots fan, or if you were a supporter, or if you're a Cam Newton fan. Yeah, he didn't make any mistakes. He didn't cost us the game this week. But at the end of the day, it still didn't seem. It's the Jets. They're defeated. They have not won a game this year. So it's not like you're taking this positive and holding it up as a trumpeting piece for anything relative to this season.
Well, that's the whole point. It's a bridge, and what's on the other end of that bridge for the Pats, I'm not sure. It's not going to be Jarrett Stidham. It could be something unique in the draft. I mean, I guess in theory, could it be a revitalized Cam Newton next year if he plays really well down the stretch? Maybe. But I would even say that if that happens, which I'm not fully expecting, but if it were to happen, I could see maybe a more desperate franchise swoop in. And maybe bring him there, maybe pay a little bit more money for him next year. I don't really know where the bridge back for the Patriots lies right. Like, again, the Jets are just a tire fire. They are what they are.
Yeah.
But where is the bridge back to, first, true viability? Because they're not viable now, the Patriots, in terms of big picture viable. And then, one level beyond true viability, where is the path to, legitimate championship viability? I don't see it on this roster at all.
You're talking about,
I don't see it.
You're talking about with the
Pats.
The Pats. It's not. It's not. They know they need to rebuild. They know they need to be not smart. I want to say almost damn it. They have to be great in this draft that's upcoming. There's a lot of good talent in this draft, by the way. Wide receivers, no tackles, etc.
Tight ends, good tight end draft.
A couple good tight ends as well. A couple of quarterbacks too. Some of whom may surprise you, like Kyle Trask, who we were talking about yesterday. We don't know much about the other kid from North Dakota State, Trey Lance, because I didn't see him play at all last year. I was expecting to see him this year. We saw one game, and he didn't do anything in that game, so we don't really know what to expect from him. But there's some interesting prospects. So the Pats got to be hoping that they crush it in the draft and that they do well in free agency, because I don't see this team, based on what I saw last night, what I've seen the previous couple of weeks, as a team that's viable in the AFC. I mean, they're interesting because of their coach and what might happen, but you can't look at this game even last night and how they won and say this team scares me in any way.
No, and listen, you talk about the draft. That, to me, that's blind faith in, listen, one thing I heard a lot was, and I don't know if you were fully in this school, but I remember talking about this with you a lot, when the Jets traded Jamal Adams, yes, conceptually, it's probably the wise thing to do. You don't need to pay a safety $17 million when you've got holes everywhere.
Yep.
But the next question was, or the next point was, now you've got to prove that you've got the acumen to nail these draft picks. And I really couldn't answer that except to say you're absolutely right. I mean, let's see what Becton was. He's pretty good. Let's see Denzel Mims. He's showing flashes. Ashton Davis got a little wiggle. He could play. So now you start to see, okay, it looks as if Joe Douglas could draft. But pertaining to the Pats, when you throw out the words, oh, now you got to nail the draft. They haven't nailed the draft since 2013. They haven't drafted a Pro Bowler. It was on the TV screen last night.
That's right.
Since 2013, Jamie Collins.
That's right.
I mean, Tom Brady masked a lot of deficiencies because they never turned the football over. So I don't know. I don't think that this is a quick fix under any. To me, there's no illusions. Like, this is not just a rough year and it's going to quickly be reset. Like, I think the Patriots will, fluctuate between that 7, 8, 9 win bubble for a year or so, or 2 or 3. I don't know where's the life preserver?
Unless they find the quarterback, unless they find the Tom Brady Jr., unless they find that guy who does everything that you just said. We don't need all pros or Pro Bowl players on this squad in order to win. We just need someone who's smart, who can make the big play, who in crunch situations we know we can rely upon to do the good thing and not the bad thing, like turn the ball over. So unless they get lucky, and that's kind of luck. At the end of the day, weren't they lucky with Tom Brady?
I think so.
I mean, Drew Bledsoe was a good quarterback. Let's not forget that. Like we forget how good Drew Bledsoe was because he's been replaced. He was replaced twice by two pretty, this generation's iconic players. Tony Romo being one of those as well, and Tom Brady, obviously not in the same category, but still, iconic to their franchises. Drew Bledsoe was replaced by two great players for their respective franchises. But Drew Bledsoe was a good player.
Very good.
He was good. He might have taken them.
Got him to the Super Bowl.
He did. He might have done the same thing. You don't know. So at the end of the day, you got to get a little bit lucky. Circumstances got to fall your way, and it's a hard way to live that way. But that's how every other team in the NFL has been going through their quarterback existence. Like, we got to get lucky with this guy. I know we're going to draft him high, but man, we got to get lucky that he's the right guy. And oftentimes it's not the case. So, sometimes you get a franchise guy who's there for a long time, but not the Super Bowl winning type of franchise player.
Like a Derek Carr if he winds up being there 4 or 5 more years or whatever. And
but Derek Carr is playing great this
year. He's playing very well. No doubt. Just like Drew Bledsoe did.
That's right.
But, I think that that's why I got to tap the brakes on occasion when we talk, and that's why I get clear separation. And I did this with Parcells. Parcells was not a particularly good drafter. He just wasn't. And he was a great coach. And Bill Belichick has not been, put it this way, there's a big gap between his coaching accomplishments and what he's done on draft day. And it's not as if he had I don't even want to say the foresight, but the instincts, right? The instincts to go to camp and say, man, I know we got this skinny-looking nerd in round 6, but there's something special here. I'm going to make this an open competition. And Brady won the battle, and, he was justified in his belief that Tom Brady might be something special. No, Mo Lewis basically broke Drew Bledsoe in half. And Tom Brady had to play. He had to play.
Yeah, and he wasn't great, by the way. He
wasn't the first couple of years,
for sure.
He was
kind of bad. He just, I don't know. He was just average. He was very average, let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I can't even sit here and say that it was this incredible vision that Tom – now, you give him credit for the vision of drafting him, even though it's a flyer in round 6. But it's not like
But he's done that 5 other times since
correct.
then. And those guys haven't panned out to be much of anything except for Jimmy Garoppolo to an extent.
Yep, and that's a great point, and I'd have to go back and look at his Browns drafts, and I wonder if he did that a few times there, although the quarterback position was very different back then. You had a guy, you pretty much had him for 10 years roughly if he was decent. He's not making, 13 or 14% of the cap, so it wasn't untenable financially. But I'm going to go back and check at some point today. I want to see what he did with his Browns drafts, the little time that he was there. I don't know. Again, the being the butt of the nation's joke for years with the Jets, I'm used to it here. What we're not used to is watching a Patriots team that just doesn't show much promise. I mean, I've watched them, Teak, as much as I've watched my own team for 20 years because they've always been in our way and they've always been on prime time. I play them twice a year. I mean, it is what it is. I don't see much, man. By the way, the Jets had 10 rookies. 10 rookies who played 10 rookies who played or undrafted guys. 10 guys. So back to Cam, who a couple of weeks back against Denver threw for 157 yards with 2 picks, was terrible. Against the Niners, 3 picks, 98 yards. We know what happened with the Bills game. Had a chance for the game-winning drive. He coughed it up because he had it in the wrong hand, fumble. And so last night, 77% he hit on, no turnovers, scored 2 of the 3 touchdowns. But you're right, the dinking and the dunking, but when he outside of the big throw before the field goal, which was a big-time throw, got to give him credit, the throws that where there weren't these wide-open windows and he had to whistle it down, he missed by miles sometimes.
I know.
Miles.
Yeah, his accuracy wanes, and it still makes me feel like there's some issue with his shoulder. His mechanics just look so off.
They do. How many times did Greasy say last night?
About his feet.
At Cam's feet. Look at Cam's feet.
Yeah, and when you're not cognizant, like Aaron Rodgers can get away with it because Aaron Rodgers he still has an elite arm, so he can get away with his feet being all over the place. But Cam can't, especially with a compromised shoulder. At least it looks like his compromised shoulder. That ball just dives into the ground, and I don't know. Like think of the contrast between these Kyler Murray like moon balls that we talk about that he throws. Cam never throws a ball like that.
Not like that.
He doesn't have that skill set to throw the ball downfield. Yeah.
Depth perception?
Yeah, or I think it's a physical ability at this point. I think there's some impingement in his shoulder.
Okay. You've been saying that for a while.
It just looks so stiff.
But then why wouldn't the fastball look worse than the lob ball?
I don't know. I can't explain it.
I mean, to me, if they're like, the juice is gonna be affected, not the arc as much.
Yeah, but
unless it's a range of motion, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm mostly guessing at this point, but he doesn't look like a fluid thrower of the football.
No, nor does he look like somebody you want really starting on opening day next year if you have designs of being good.
No,
I mean, really,
right.
he doesn't strike me as that kind of guy right now.
No, he doesn't.
So I tweeted this last night, Tiki. It's funny. I said, this before the game. Apologies to the nation for the slop you're about to be subjected to. Follow the script, Jets. Just keep being you. Don't change now. All right? Then they come out. Then about 20 minutes after that tweet I write, the Jets just resembled a fairly competent unit. This is utterly unacceptable. Dig down deep and find your true self. We've worked too hard to be in this position.
That's funny.
That's great. It was that kind of a night. Listen, I was happy to see Mims, happy to see Ashton Davis. When he came in on that blitz on Cam, and they got called for the penalty, which was not a penalty. Ashton Davis, the track runner, the track star from Cal, looks like he's going to be a pretty decent player. But this is like there's really not much else to latch onto. Last night, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a 31-3 or a 17-6 kind of game. It was fairly entertaining. It really was.
Agreed.
But I needed to get your opinion on Cam because I just don't see anybody. Now, again, I wasn't saying this the first couple of weeks of the season where he looked a lot better than he has now, and maybe the COVID setback, and maybe he's just in a different space, whatever. But if you just flipped on the game last night and didn't know about the MVP, didn't know about how he played in September, you'd say this guy's a stopgap.
Yeah.
It's a stopgap.
That's right.
They were talking about Sam Darnold's trade value here. And, listen, whether they get one or two, if they get one, they're definitely taking Lawrence. If they get two, I don't know how they feel about Justin Fields. I don't know yet. I would still certainly take Justin Fields at number 2, even though I'm a Darnold guy. But at this point, he's going into year 4. You're going to have to pay him, blah, blah, blah. So the Countdown crew was talking about what his stock might be in terms of a trade. And he says, here's Schefter, he says, quote, there's definite interest, but it's probably not as high as I thought. I think they get maybe back what the Cardinals got back for Josh Rosen, a 2 and a 5, something like that. That was the sense that I got from talking with a variety of front office executives. 2 and a 5 off the top. When you hear that, Teague, what is from other teams' perspective, but also from the Jets' perspective?
It means hardly anything to me. The draft pick compensation just doesn't make sense. What means anything? Like, what's the value of a fifth round draft pick? I have zero idea what the value of a fifth round draft pick is. How this makes any sense to trade a quarterback for a fifth rounder. I mean, how does it pan itself out, and how do you value that in the long run? It's almost impossible to do. Second and first, those are a little bit different because those are draft picks that are you're using to immediately impact your team. And so if you believe that Sam Darnold can immediately impact your team, then giving up a second rounder for him. So let's say you're the Chicago Bears, for instance, and the guys you have aren't the answer, and you need someone who can come in, not compete for the starting job, but be my starter from week 1 of 2021. Then that makes sense. A second rounder makes sense, or even a first rounder if you're high enough on Sam Darnold. I just don't think people are going to be that high on Sam Darnold, given, and it's not even his fault. But
no, I agree with you.
It's just the circumstances that he finds himself in. So a second rounder, that sounds right. What the fifth rounder, that end, I have no idea what that means down the line.
No, I don't disagree. We're not going to waste anybody's time. Fifth rounder, it's hey, listen, you stick it in your pocket. You have enough fifth rounders. Maybe you spin 2 5s into a fourth, whatever it might be. You give yourself a little flexibility on the board on draft day. That's small potatoes. The issue is, I think that this is why you play Sam Darnold whenever he's ready. Even if the Jets would have won last night, and Flacco didn't throw that ridiculous pick, taking a shot down the field, they would have won because he played so well up until that point. In my opinion, you still give the football right back to Sam whenever he's ready, even if it means coming off a win, although there is a bye this week separating the win from the next game, because this is about intel. You need answers, and you need to show the rest of the league what Sam Darnold might be with a guy like Perriman, with a Crowder, like a Mims, with 3 receivers instead of 3 scrubs, which is what he's played with pretty much every week this year because everybody's been hurt outside of Crowder. I think that and this is what's interesting for the teams who might be inclined to strike a deal for Darnold. It's got to be a team that is not going to, in their estimation, is not going to be anywhere close enough for the 2021 or even 2022 draft to pick top 10 to get a quarterback the conventional way. It's got to be a middle-of-the-road team in that it doesn't have to be, but I think this is probably the best path.
Well, it's the only one. It's the only way it makes sense because if you can get one of these other guys already, then why would you trade? You know what I mean?
100%. That's where I'm going because then the finances come into it, and it's not just as simple as trying to boil down, well, boy, and I tried to simplify it this way last year and for a little bit this year. I haven't really done this in a while, but, my thing was I got to see the kid with a real coach, with a real system, with a real offensive line, with a real receiving core, with a real chance. Those things absolutely matter. But they are mattering less the deeper you get into that rookie contract.
Yes, and now he's in his 3rd year. You got to figure out if you trade for him, are you getting the 5th-year option? Because you have to decide after the 3rd year.
Yep.
Is that you want him for next year only, or you want him for next year and the year after this? I mean, obviously you could franchise him, but it's easier if you put it on the rookie contract. So, I mean, I'm looking through the quarterback prospects, BT.
Yep.
Now and this will become the question. Trevor Lawrence or Sam Darnold? I think most people say Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Justin Fields. Then you get into the Trey Lances of the world.
No idea. No idea.
Nobody has any idea.
No idea.
You haven't seen him play enough. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson from BYU has started to climb up the charts a little bit because he's bigger than you think he is. I don't know, for some reason that BYU white makes him look small.
He's 6'4", right?
Exactly. 6'3", 6'3.5". He's over 200 pounds. I mean, he can put some weight on, but still, he's starting to get interesting. So if you're thinking of
Kyle Trask.
Yep, Kyle Trask. So let's think of those 5 guys. Like you're down to probably 15 or 16 in the draft. So at this point, unless you are, finishing outside of the bottom half of the league, so you're in the top half of the league off AFC and NFC, and you need a quarterback. That's the trade partners for Sam Darnold, or really any quarterback that's coming free right now. That's the trade partners for them, and it's actually very limited. A lot of teams already have their idea on who their future is.
I know.
And in the ones that don't, like Jacksonville or the Jets or whoever else.
Maybe the Niners.
Maybe the Niners.
Probably the Niners.
Right? But again,
Vikings.
But those guys, are they going to finish in the bottom half? I don't know.
No.
That's the question.
Let's just say, all right, that he comes back off the bye and he plays well. Because listen, there's been glimpses with Darnold. I mean, there's been glimpses. We know that. Not enough, but there's been real glimpses that has emboldened people like Tony Romo, people like why am I forgetting the kid? I'm just forgetting the skinny dude on ESPN, Dan Orlovsky, who loves him, who's very good at breaking down quarterbacks. He's great with the film. He's a smart dude. A lot of people still have not given up on Sam. If Sam comes back and the Jets lose and still are in a position to get number 1, but he really shows with those 3 receivers, a penchant to protect the ball and score and move the ball, because he's an athlete. He can make some plays, as Denver when he just left 3 jocks on the turf on that 46-yard run. Is there any discussion within the Jets organization that, we love what we saw. He finally has some pieces around them. We're trading out of 1. We're getting Lord knows what for that, for Trevor Lawrence.
A lot.
And we're taking all the number 1s from Adams and all the other things we have, and we're going in that direction. Is that even a feasible plan?
Yeah, of course it's a feasible
plan.
plan.
I think it should be, too.
It definitely will. And if it's not part of the conversation, then the Jets aren't doing themselves any justice, because they need a lot of pieces. And if they can do it with a lot of 1s, then do it with a lot of 1s. And the thing is, keep your quarterback, then that's changing quarterbacks like every 3 or 4 years. It's never a formula for success. Ever. Yeah,
like
ever.
Coaches and GMs.
Exactly.
I hear you.
The same thing. Those are the 3 positions: GM, head coach, quarterback. If you're changing every 3 or 4 years, you're going to be bad every maybe you'll be good 1 out of like 6 years there.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, and by the way, if they go for plan A, which I believe it would still be Lawrence, and I believe going back to Darnold and trading out would be plan B.
Yeah.
But if they go to plan A, even if Lawrence is terrific, there's still nothing around them, so you can waste a year or two doing that, possible. And even if you decide to go with plan B, keep Darnold and bypass on a guy who, by all accounts, is going to be terrific, you still stack the coffers with multiple ones, and you can still get a quarterback another way.
Yeah, that's right.
So that to me is still, I'll be honest with you, it's not as intriguing as it was coming into the season. I thought that they'd be by the way, Darnold gets hurt a lot. That's the other problem. Gets hurt every year.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of things to consider, but we'll see. I think Schefter's estimate's a little on the low end with the 2 and the 5. I could see maybe a 2 and a 4. Well, who cares? That's in the weeds. That doesn't really matter. We'll get our answer at some point, but we'll see. Jets have some tough decisions to make, and we'll see what they do. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.